This better be good because you interrupted me on hair washing night, and I've already been through enough tonight as it is.
Hi.
Oh my god, bestie. Hey, listen, I have so many things that I want to say, and I'm so glad that you stopped by. So, my boyfriend proposed to me tonight, and I ended up saying no to him. We were at a wedding, and it was all just so romantic, and it was so sweet. And I just I couldn't do it. When we got back to the house, he had rose petals everywhere. Rose petals in the bathtub. It doesn't matter that that bathtub was spitting out brown, dirty water. It doesn't matter. The thought that counted. And in that moment, I was like, should I be with him forever, bestie? Should I? And I still just bring myself to do it, you know? Does that make sense?
Hi.
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 Is Tamara here?
I don't know who Tamara is, but can I be your Tamara right now? Because I really need somebody, you know? Like, I need someone to talk to, and it's just been a really emotionally draining night, you know? Like, I just want someone to come in. Come in. You want to come in? Come on. We can sit down and talk all night. All night. Literally all night until morning. And all day tomorrow. Like, if you want to talk all night and all day tomorrow, I'm okay with that.
Hi.
Hey, Bessie, listen. You're not planning to come back here with your friends later and kill me, are you?
I'll see you later.
Now that was chilling. Welcome back to Mr. Bear Likes to Watch. I am Mr. Bear, your emotional support monster, and I figured what better time than now to revisit The Strangers from 2008. I mean, the release of The Strangers Chapter 1, which is the first in a planned new trilogy based on the IP, is about to release. It's been an absolute year since I have seen this, and I've always had kind of a special place for it in my heart. I've always enjoyed it, but again, it's been a really long time, and I was curious to know, does this hold up? Is this something that even needs to be remade, and especially in trilogy form? So let's talk about it. The Strangers opens up with shots of people driving around in a car. It's quiet. There's not a whole lot going on to it, but there is something that's like underlying and menacing about it, almost as if they're scoping out the neighborhood, the comings and goings of people, seeing what they might be able to get into or what places they might be able to potentially visit later. And I thought it was an appropriately chilly and chilling opening. And then we cut to some young religious kids, presumably maybe Jehovah's Witness, that happen to stumble across a crime scene. We have no idea what's happened here. And this really does set the tone for what's about to happen here. The Strangers is an incredibly bleak film and almost kind of mean spirited in a way. But we'll get more into that later. So we meet our couple. Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman star in this movie. And they are a couple. They've visited a wedding for the night. Seemingly had a really great time up until Homeboy decides to propose to her. And she says no. So they head on back to this house after the wedding that's out in the middle of nowhere, where he had hoped things were going to go super well. Rose petals everywhere, rose petals in the bathtub. And by the way, when she runs the water in that bathtub, absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. That shit was brown. It looked like wastewater. And that's a no from me. But they get back to the home, sullen, things are sad. It's clear that they still love each other. And it's kind of unclear exactly why there was a no here. But it really does help to set up these characters that we're going to follow and give us just a little bit of something to care about. They're not developed in an extreme way. You don't really learn much about them. You get the absolute bare minimum for what is about to be just an absolute white knuckle tension machine. And I think for something like this that clocks in at just under 90 minutes, I think this is really all we need here. I don't think we need super deep character development. I think that they played their roles great. I love Liv Tyler. Scott Speedman, I have some problems with him, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But I thought that they were incredibly engaging, and they seem and feel like real people. And I think that that is the most important thing that the filmmaker, Brian Bertino, who wrote and directed this, had to portray for us. So as they go through their night, again, sad, having some drinks, lost in thought, out, like I said, in the middle of nowhere, suddenly they receive a knock on the door. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. So this is strange because, bitch, we're in the fucking middle of nowhere. So they answer the door, and there's a strange girl standing on the step. Not exactly imposing or scary, and her face is always hidden in shadow, so you never really see who she is. And she just says hello, asks if Tamra's there, and they have a small back and forth about this, and it's kind of left at that. That's really all there is to it. But there is something menacing about what just happened here because, again, it's 4 a.m. It's the middle of nowhere. It's not like they have neighbors next door. Like she could have accidentally walked up to the wrong house at the cul-de-sac or any of that kind of bullshit. So this is setting the stage for something not being right here. So immediately after that, fucking homeboy decides to leave his girl at this house in the middle of fucking nowhere where this bitch just knocked on the fucking door to go get cigarettes. But I smoke, bitch. I'm a filthy, dirty smoker. In that situation, if my man left me to go get cigarettes, this is why I said no, motherfucker. This is why I said no. You're going to leave me like this? So essentially, as soon as he's out the door, she starts hearing knocking, sounds outside, another knock at the door, and starts slowly being terrorized, mostly just with noises, things unseen. And we do come to see that the strangers, there are 3 of them, the bad guys in this movie, the strangers, that's what this shit is called, and I don't know them by any other name, so they have access to get inside this house. It's clear from this moment that the bad guys in this movie absolutely have the upper hand in every single way at all times. There is never a moment when they are not in control of every single thing that is going on here. And I think that is one of the things that makes this so genuinely frightening. Because home invasion, I think is a terrifying concept as it is. Somebody entering your fucking personal property, your home, and invading your space in that way, absolutely not. That shit works for me. It's one of my favorite horror subgenres. So she knows something is going on. She does not know that they can gain entry to the house because you'll see shots of her just standing, trying to use the phone with him just looming in the background. And it makes me think of the time that I saw this in the theater when it came out. I was with my best friend Mac and a couple of our other friends. We had seen the trailer for this, thought it looked really fun, love horror movies. So we wanted to go check this shit out. And that moment when she is standing in the living room and you see him sort of just appear behind her and in that sack mask that they give him to that I think is absolutely iconic. It's so subtle and it's so quiet. And if you weren't watching the movie or paying any attention, it's something you absolutely would miss. And I remember my friend Mac gasping in the theater, and this was probably a half full theater. And his gasp set off this like chain reaction through the theater where everyone then suddenly noticed what was going on. And you just almost felt like this chill in the air. It was just one of those amazing like movie theater moments that I'll never ever forget. So after a while of being shown that the strangers are in control and they can do what they want, homeboy gets back with cigarettes, thank God, and is immediately bombarded with, there are people outside, what the fuck is going on, we've got to get out of here. And he is skeptical. And I'm like, bitch, this is strike two, and another reason why I said no to getting married to you. And that just strikes me as a little bit ridiculous, unless her character has a history of this behavior, which if she does, we're never given that information, and I'm gonna say is highly unlikely. It just seems like a strange writing misstep for me. But what ensues from here is, like I said, just an absolute tension machine. Cat and mouse horror. It's horror in like some of the purest sense of the word. I mean, the characters don't necessarily note this, but us as the audience do, because we're watching this unfold, and we understand that this is a hopeless situation for them. After they've gone out and they try to get in their car and they see that is smashed, tires slashed, really no way to get away. It's just absolutely hit home that these people are doing nothing more than playing just an absolutely sick game, and they love watching these people be terrified, and they love creating these moments where these people are terrified. And it's genuinely so cold and almost mean-spirited and chilling that I think this movie really, for the most part, is just, it's incredibly done. It has some missteps, like some of the writing, like I said before. Yeah, it's kind of strange. He's not immediately just believing his woman and threat, let's go. So a little while into this cat and mouse game, this gentleman's friend shows up. He had reached out to him earlier tonight to say that the proposal didn't go so well, and maybe in the morning, like, come and let's get out of here. So this man arrives at the house. He was like, fuck it, like, it's late. I'm just going to go ahead and head out there anyway. Let's just get on the road. So he's arrived at the home. We know that. The two in the home don't know this. And this creates, I think, one of the absolute best scenes in this movie. A lot of times in this film, there is the use of music. Maybe music you wouldn't suspect, and the sound of like skipping records, which absolutely adds to the intensity of everything that you're watching and seeing on screen. And during this moment, they play Mama Tried by Merle Haggard, and it's just it's kind of a strange choice for this, but honestly, like, it's such an iconic scene for me that I really couldn't imagine another song in its place during this. So this gentleman arrives. He realizes clearly something the fuck is wrong here. The house is looking a little torn apart. The car looks fucked up. His car got fucked up when he got here. So he is walking through the house, and I think rightfully not just screaming people's names. Because you don't know what's going on here. You don't know if there are other people in the house. And probably the last thing you want to do is draw any attention to yourself. So we have Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman like hiding in a closet with a shotgun. And really just expecting the worst, because again, they have no idea this guy's here. So as he slowly walks down the hallway, right as he approaches the doorway where they're hiding, he speaks one word and that shotgun goes off and he blows his friend away. And it's absolutely hopeless, and it's devastating. And it's so well played, and it provides one of the few moments of genuine emotion, even though you don't know this character. Just the thought of having killed your friend, who actually really could have been a savior tonight, is a really dark thought. So So after this sequence, they do end up getting separated. And I think this, for me, is probably the weakest portion of the movie. Scott Speedman is off screen for a very long time. Liv Tyler is essentially running around. She gets hurt, so the hoe basically just like, she crawls around for a lot of it. And I mean, I get it. I get what they're going for. But to me, it just felt, it's the only like real pacing issue I ever have with this movie. Like I said, it's lean, it's mean, it's extremely scary, and it's just absolutely packed with tension. But you do lose a little bit of that here because it almost ventures into the territory of being a little bit silly. I think it's okay that she's hurt, but I think watching her crawl around for as fucking long as we do is pushing it a little bit. So after Liv Tyler is done crawling around, she's pursued back into the house, where she's knocked unconscious. What follows is that now they are back together, but they are tied up. So as they come to, they find that they're in the living room of the home with the three strangers standing in front of them. And I think what follows is just so incredibly bleak and hopeless. As they sit there, it leads to the most iconic moment or line from this movie where they ask, "Why are you doing this to us?" And the one girl says, "Just because you were home." Just going to show that they're psychopaths. They're doing this for fun. They don't have regard for human life. They want to terrorize people, and they do. As they stand in front of the victims, they one by one remove their masks, and we never see their faces. But them standing in front of their victims, pulling their masks off, showing them their faces, is basically just saying, you have absolutely no chance of survival here. We don't care that you see us. We're going to finally show you who we are, and we're going to kill you. And I think it's just absolutely bleak, and it's really, I think, genuinely terrifying. I think even a moment like that strikes me as even more terrifying than these people in masks, because again, you're seeing who they really are. So if you had a chance to get out of this, yeah, you have some hope in getting someone caught or finding them, or whatever it may be, but you know in that moment that just simply is not going to happen. And almost as if they have this unspoken rule amongst each other, they take turns stabbing the victims, as if saying, we're all in this together, we all are a part of this, we're all doing this, we all have blood on our hands. And again, I think that is just incredibly chilling. So with the victims left for dead, they hop in their truck, masks off, sun shining, regular day, and you see them as just regular people. You never see their faces, at most maybe like a kind of in silhouette, but they just strike you as regular ass kids, teens, or at most like young adults. They seem pretty young. And it's just terrifying to think that there probably are people out there like this doing this. And that's why I think this movie hits so hard. And especially with the random aspect of the violence. These people weren't stalked. It was a crime of opportunity. And God knows how many other times they've committed this crime of opportunity, or how many times they will commit this crime of opportunity. And knowing so little about the strangers themselves, I think, is the best decision that they made here. We do not need to know any more than what they gave us here, because it keeps things vague. You can project a lot onto it, and I think it keeps things at their most chilling. You can explain things in certain films, or explain villains to a point where they're no longer scary, but these three villains are left decidedly very scary in my eyes. So as they drive down the road, they come across the boys that we met at the beginning that stumble across the crime scene. Like I said, like Christian door-to-door boys, or like Jehovah's Witness, or something like that. And they stop the truck and get out. And you never really get in my opinion, I don't think you really ever get the sense that the strangers want to hurt them. Um, but I think there is a psychological game that they're playing to an extent, and especially coming off of what they've just done, probably experiencing some sort of a high from that. Um, they want to emotionally toy with these boys. They ask for one of the pamphlets, and the boy says, "Are you a sinner?" to one of the girls, and she says, "Sometimes." And I think that exchange is excellent. It's all that's spoken there. It's all that needs to be spoken, and there's just something that had so much gravity to it with just that one simple word of sometimes. Um, and I thought it was extremely well done. Um, so the boys pick up where we were at the beginning. They head into the house. They come across the male dead body first. Clearly see shit is wrong. The house is fucked up. And go to call 911, of course. And as one reaches out for the Liv Tyler character, her eyes open and she screams. And I thought that shit was so tired. It does not ruin the movie, but it's such a. It just is stupid. It's a dumb ending note to leave this film on because everything that followed before it was so hopeless and so bleak and so dark and so mean spirited that I mean maybe he was wanting to provide some sort of a hint, a sense of hope that somebody may have survived this, but what it really smacks of is let's keep this shit open for a sequel. And what's funny here is even though there was a sequel to it that was made a decade later, and I'll be reviewing that next on my channel, this is the type of film that if you were to make a sequel, absolutely does not rely on the victims from the first movie at all. The real stars here are the strangers and their lack of motive, their relentless campaign of terror. And you just don't need a survivor from the first movie to carry that on into the next one. You could tell so many different stories based on just those things alone that it just felt cheap to me and left a slightly sour note at the end of the movie. Overall, though, I think The Strangers is incredible. I think it's genuinely scary. Um, and like one of the scarier modern horror films, in my opinion. I was surprised to see, like, as I looked into reviews on this and things, like before I watched and filmed this video, to see some of the low scores and how kind of divisive this is and how many people really don't like it. Um, and I mean, I can see not liking it because it is nihilistic and so incredibly dark. But from a film craft perspective, I think it's great. I mean, the tension is there and the tension is sustained. And like I said, other than just like one or two small little like pacing moments in the movie, I think that the tension is almost just relentless. And maybe some people find that kind of, I guess, boring though, because it's not exactly the most action packed movie in the entire world. Um, Up until like the cat and mouse game starts, things are incredibly quiet in this movie, and it relies on you actually watching and paying attention and seeing things on screen that it's not really trying to draw your eye to with sounds or noises or jumps or any of that kind of stuff. It's all very subtle, and it just sets the tone for this absolutely terrifying home invasion thriller. I really can't recommend this enough. If somehow you have not seen this, I it's absolutely worth a watch. It's not exactly a fun movie to watch, um, but if you're into tension and horror, you just really can't do a whole lot better than this. I do feel a little bit concerned about this imminent trilogy. The first part comes out in just a couple days. Um, and as I said at this time, do I find it necessary? I don't. This movie holds up extremely well. It's not really that old anyway. It's from 2008. Um, and with it being a trilogy, that's what has me a little bit more worried because it's been said, I guess, by Rennie Harlan, who will be directing these, that he's wanting to delve more into the backstory of the Strangers, and I think that sounds, as of right now, like a really misstep. Like I said, the allure here and what makes this so interesting is the mystery of them, the unknown element, and what you can project on that, and what you can come up with in your own mind. And I think they really risk making this much less scary if they give us too much character information or try to do too much with the Strangers themselves. All right, so that's my thoughts on The Strangers from 2008. A modern horror classic, in my opinion, with very few missteps in my eyes. Next up on my channel, I'm going to be reviewing The Strangers Prey at Night from 2016, the follow-up sequel. And then this weekend, I'll be seeing The Strangers Chapter 1, and I'll have a review coming for that as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and somebody probably needs to take my phone away from me sometime, because that shit I made at the beginning was cringe, but at least I'm free.